It had all started at the table, where they had shared many meals and much conversation, where they had shared and borne each other up amid their questions and their challenges, and multiplied their joys. It all started at the table. Yet, tables can be a threat. Tables can be a threat, writes Diana Butler Bass, to the empire. Tables, in their fullness, can be a threat to the empire. Nevertheless, last night, Jesus spent time at the table with his beloved friends, his chosen family, as they celebrated that Passover together, a time of connection, openness, vulnerability, sacrifice of energy, resource, skill, everything it takes to bring a meal to the table. A time to share challenges, frustrations, discovery, humor, and joy, all the stuff, all the fullness of life. Because at the table, we are human. In our constant hunger, we are human. In our dependence upon food and one another, we are human. We all need to eat, don't we? Which means we need to sacrifice of ourselves in order to be nourished. We need to sacrifice of ourselves and receive the sacrifice of others in order to live. Someone sacrifices somewhere. Many sacrifice in many places at many times for one to live, for one to live, for one more day. We live and then we die. We are human. But do we really live? That is a question of Good Friday. In a reflection upon Good Friday in 1964, the African-American theologian and contemplative and scholar Howard Thurman wrote about Good Friday, "I am reminded not merely of the drama of this occasion, the death, the crucifixion, and the extended agony of that timeless interval," he wrote. "But I'm also reminded of the life of which this crucifixion was a part. The crucifixion," Thurman wrote, "was the logic of the life that the Master lived. That is, the way Jesus lived his life, the way Jesus shared his life, the way Jesus testified to the truth time and time and time again with his whole heart and soul and body. Is a logic that shows us too how to live. We live and then we die. We are human. The fact that we will die is no surprise, though it surprises us. The fact that Jesus died is no surprise because he lived. He was human. He would die at some point. The way he lived and shared his life in the fullness, the way he testified to the truth with his whole being, led to the way that he would die. For the empire is threatened by the table. The empire is threatened by integrity. And if there's one word to describe how Jesus lived and shared his life, how he testified to the truth, that word just might be integrity. Jesus said, I was born and came into the world for this reason, to testify to the truth. What is truth? Pilate asked the question that every one of us thinks at some point. It is easier to ignore the question. It is easier to ignore truth itself. It is much easier to ignore and set aside integrity. For integrity, as a table, demands time, demands fullness, demands attention, requires sacrifice. There is little that is convenient about integrity. And it is at the very least for this inconvenience that the empire rejected and killed the truth and integrity that Jesus lived. In his reflection on Good Friday, Thurman continues that death is not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen, Thurman suggests, is to not fully live, is to not testify to one's truth, is to not seek and protect integrity. He says there comes a time in a person's life when they must cast their vote either to live with dignity and the strength and the character and the insight of a person with convictions, or not. Death is not the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen, Thurman suggests, is to live without integrity, is to ignore the truth. Integrity, truth, and even the humble table, all of these are threats to power. Because tables involve sacrifice. Tables take time. Tables demand fullness. At a table, we look at each other, eye to eye. We listen ear to ear. We share heart to heart. Sharing of ourselves and receiving the gifts of others at a table is a way that we practice integrity, is a way that we receive and honor the truth of life, the truth of how we are made. The good news about Good Friday, even as we plunge into the depths of human experience, even as we probe the floor of our souls, is that integrity wins. It wins in a way that we can't imagine, that we don't expect. It wins in a way that we cannot bring about by ourselves. It wins because love is God, and God is love. And love wins. On Good Friday, we recognize and we witness with eyes open how terrible and how horrific the world is and can be. On this Good Friday, we do not avert our gaze from the truth of life, the truth of this life, where integrity is common and shared, where we at a table are members of one body, and this threatens power. Everyone belongs, everyone has a place. At a table, we practice the sharing of common life where there is no control and no one dominates and no one manipulates and no one ignores and no one rejects, but all are together. Together as one. We do not know why Judas prized convenience over truth. Was it convenience that he prized? We do not know why he could not see and celebrate integrity in all its fullness in his friend Jesus. We do not know why his patience wore thin and why he sought those 30 silver coins in the place of his friend's life. We do not know why the people in power at that time were so threatened and inconvenienced that they would let Jesus die rather than see him live and witness the truth and integrity alive in him. On this Good Friday, we witness that all of these things happen and all of these things are true all at once. In our inconsistencies, our frustrations, our sorrows, and our joy, all the stuff of life, we are human. In our constant hunger, we are human. In our dependence upon one another and upon God, we are human. We live, we die, we are human. We live, we die. But do we really, really